Welcome to Japanatron. Hello and welcome to Japanatron, another episode. Japanatron is a podcast about life in Japan and Japanese culture. So let's jump into it. Today's topic, I want to talk about hot springs, also known as onsen. The Japanese word for hot springs. I'm going to use the two words interchangeably, probably. So just know that onsen is hot springs. Most people who are fans of Japan probably already know that. So let's talk about this. Hot springs, onsen. Oh yeah, it's winter, it's freezing cold, and it's a great time to visit a Japanese onsen. This is something that is very Japanese. It's not like sushi that really, proliferated all over the world. You look at Hollywood, go down Ventura Boulevard or something, and you'll see sushi places everywhere. But onsens really never made it, because I think American culture just doesn't have these, because, American culture has some kind of Puritan problem with being naked. There aren't many places in the U.S. where you could be naked around other people. I'm sure some people can think of like exceptions to that, but I think most people know what I mean. It's not like there aren't many nude beaches and there aren't many nude this or that spas or whatever in the U.S. It's just got that Puritan culture to it. So Japan does have this. And being American, it took me a long time to get used to the idea. A very long time. Years and years. And when I used to go to the onsen, because everyone was telling me, oh, you got to check these places out. They're awesome. It's so relaxing. It's a great spa. Some of them are outside. You get great views of places, the nature and everything. You're naked in nature. It's a good, Adam and Eve type feeling. So I used to kind of cheat. I used to go very late at night because they'd be open till like 2 or 3 in the morning at some of these ryokan, which are like the Japanese-style inns. And most of these Japanese-style inns have some kind of onsen in them. Usually the good ones do. So I called it like a ninja dip. I just kind of went like in the middle of the night when no one else was in there and just kind of had the whole place to myself so that I could just be naked there alone. It took a long time getting used to going during the normal hours because old men and little kids, always stared at me in general, because I was, especially when I was living in the countryside. Not so much in Tokyo, but when I was living in the countryside, usually especially old men and little kids would stare at me. And, that wasn't cool being naked, When I'm out in the street, shopping, fine, little kids stare at you. But when I'm totally naked, fine. It's a little uncomfortable, people staring at me when I'm naked. But I got over it. I got over it because I said, hey, stare. I should be proud of what I'm showing. I should be proud of what I'm displaying. So stare all you want. Yes, I'm gaijin. I'm a foreigner. Maybe I have bigger parts than you. So yeah, take a good look. Take an eyeful. Yeah, bastard. So one rule I still always follow to this day is I always go alone. I might go with like my wife or something, but there's men's side and the women's side. But I don't go with like guy friends, or like guy coworkers. I can't imagine doing that, like, with my dad or my friends. I mean, what do? Do you, you're totally naked in there. Do you look up at the ceiling when you're talking to each other? I mean, where do you look? Do you have to look at the wall? Do you make eye contact? I don't know. I've never ventured into that avenue. I have seen, like, coworkers or friends, like, just talking to each other, just chatting it up, totally naked, just sitting there, with their legs crossed or something. They might, like, put, like, a little towel over the money shot, but I see that and I'm like, oh man, I could just never do that. No matter how long I've lived here, I could never do that. So I always go alone to this day. My former coworker at Eon, she did go with friends. She was a young lady from the UK, and she had absolutely no qualms about going to the hot spring with like her students after class. Female students would ask her, "Hey, you want to go to the hot spring?" She's like, "Sure." And I always asked her, like, isn't it weird that your students have seen you naked? And I guess it's fair, she's seen them naked, but still, being the teacher and all, you're kind of the upper position in a way. And I don't know, I would feel like uncomfortable teaching a class knowing that half the students in the class have seen me naked, the night before or something. So, she was okay with it. So she was totally fine with it. Hey, she's from the UK. She's not from America. She's not from America, so maybe she didn't suffer from the Puritan culture thing like I unfortunately do. There are two types of onsen, of hot springs, and one is like a true onsen. It's got a license, which usually is posted on the wall, and it has something to do with the quality of the water. The water has to come from a true natural hot spring, and it has to be like certified by a government agency actually, and they will proudly display their true onsen status on the wall, or even in the actual onsen. They'll have like a placard up on the wall displaying like the mineral levels and all that, the volcanic, I don't know what, it's a whole bunch of science in there. I don't really care. I don't really need to get into that. That's a true onsen. Most others are called sento. It's a public bath. These might display something about the purity of the water or whatnot, but they don't need some kind of like stringent license from the government. The true onsen is the harder one to get. I guess you can think of it as like a liquor license. You got the beer and the wine, and then you got like the whole hard liquor license, which is the harder, more expensive one to get. So there's your analogy. Before I get into my how-to tips, which is kind of the core of what I wanted to talk about with the onsens, I have a few stories, little tidbits about onsens throughout my history in Japan. One thing, my sister and her best friend visited, and at the time I didn't have a lot of experience in Tokyo with the good sentos or onsens around, so we went to one. My wife and I took them both to probably one of the largest ones. I think it's Oedo Onsen, over in the Odaiba area. And it was kind of like a Disneyland of onsens. It had this whole Japanese festival, Matsuri thing going on. You put on like your yukata, and they got like, it's almost like a fake Japanese festival going on in there. And then they have their onsens around in there too. At the time, I wasn't really a big fan of going to onsen, so I was just kind of walking around the festival area. My sister and her friend wanted to kind of relax, maybe get massages or something. So it was really crowded that day, unfortunately. I think it was a weekend, if I remember correctly. And we're signing them up for some kind of, esthe service, some kind of, massage or something. And the only thing available was this, like, Korean-style, like, exfoliation treatment, okay? And I didn't know exactly what it was, but it was kind of like the only thing available, okay? And so we signed them. They're like, okay, that's fine, exfoliation, whatever. It sounds relaxing. Let's do it. So they went to their appointment, and unfortunately, it wasn't like your typical massage where you just walk in and you're in like separate, booths or whatever. You have to go into the main like locker area and strip down. And you have to enter the main bath area, which they were not prepared to do, being together. Like I just said, I would never go with like my best friend. Well, my sister and her best friend were just forced into this situation, unfortunately, where they had to strip down. And my sister said it was kind of like a concentration camp. Everyone had to get naked. And they go into this like treatment area, and they're just totally naked, and they have these towels just over covering themselves because they did not want to be naked in front of each other. So then the women come to take them to their treatment, and they just rip the towels off of them. And I think my sister and her best friend were just sort of doing the staring at the ceiling thing or whatever. And they're going through the treatment. And they come out of there. And I think they were pretty upset at me because of what I had gotten them into. Well, hey, you live and learn. I didn't know what it was at the time. And yeah, I learned through them, through their experience, what it was. Funny side note after that is that I went to... when I was in an onsen, I recently have gotten into them a lot. I saw like this woman just scrubbing the shit out of this man, just scrubbing him down like really hard with like these mittens and these brushes and everything. And it didn't look really relaxing. It looked like you're cleaning like like you took a mud bath and they're cleaning it off of you or something, or some kind of decontamination treatment. Like you've been contaminated with some kind of chemicals, and you have to go through this really aggressive treatment to get it all off of your skin. That's what it looked like to me, and it turns out that's what my sister and her friend had. And I'm like, oh my god, that's what they had. Whoops, whoopsie. But I was thinking about it when I did see it. I'm like, man, if I'm ever feeling really dirty. I really want to feel like extremely, extremely clean. I'd probably get that someday. Maybe someday. I have not yet gotten it, but it just seems kind of fun, if you're in the right mood for it. So that's one story. Interestingly enough about this, after my sister and her friend visited me in Tokyo, my mom and dad visited as well much later, and they had heard this story from my sister, of course. And my mom, despite all her reservations about going to an onsen, when we went out to the countryside, kind of a countryside area, Hakone, outside of Tokyo, we stayed at a ryokan, and my mom did go. She did go, and she did enjoy it. The difference there was she was alone, which makes all the difference. If you are from a country that's completely okay with being naked around friends, maybe family is something different because you might take a shower with mom and dad when you're little or something. I don't know, maybe family is different, but your best friends later in life when you're adult, if you're okay with being naked around them, let me know because I'd love to hear more about your culture. Because unfortunately, that is just something that's not cool in America. One other funny story about onsen is my wife and I went once when we were visiting Totori again, where I had lived. And some onsens out in the countryside are dirt cheap. Like you just pay like a couple 100 yen, 500 yen for the entrance. And then you're kind of expected to bring like your towel and, maybe anything else you might need. They're kind of minimalist when it comes to providing the amenities. Amenities. Jesus. So we went to one and they had towels and they were optional. They're like a rental towel. So I didn't have one with me. So I just sort of walked in and I didn't realize that. And so I walked in and my wife went into the women's side, of course. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, I need to get a rental towel. But before that, I had to take a big dump. So I go into the restroom and I'm taking a dump and I'm like mid-log. And then my wife comes because I think she was concerned about me with not having the towel. Okay, because it sucks if you're totally wet and you come out and you have no towel. It's not the best time, totally naked and wet, to go out to the booth and get like a rental towel. That's not the best time to do it. So she wanted to make sure I was prepared. God bless her heart. Unfortunately, at the time this concern struck her, I was mid-log in the middle of a massive dump. She goes over to the door where the entrance for the men's side is, and she can't go in. So she's just yelling, David! 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 And I just hear this. And everyone's looking around going like, what's going on? And I'm mid-log. I mean, what do you do? What do you do in that situation? So I just finish up as quickly as I can, which isn't easy to do when you're mid-log. So I get out of there, and I'm not as clean as I like to be. I have to kind of go in for round 2. And so my wife is like there after having yelled for like 5 minutes straight. And she explains, that whole towel situation. I'm like, no, it's all cool. By the way, great timing. You got me right when I was mid-log. Okay? And that's definitely the expression of this episode, mid-log. And it wasn't even Turtlehead. It was like way beyond Turtlehead. The turtle was pretty much out halfway. So that was resolved. And I went in for round 2 and got cleaned up. Another one was also in Tolturi. The interesting onsen stories always seem to happen out there in the countryside. I was at the onsen, and I was in the locker room, and I was getting ready to leave. And it's at the point, the vulnerable 10 seconds when I am completely naked. That vulnerable 10 seconds. This other guy in the locker room just decides he wants to strike up a conversation with me right at that moment. And I just sort of, I was the only other person in the whole locker room. It was just me and him. So of course he was talking to me. But I just sort of, I had my back to him. So I just sort of ignored him for the 10 seconds. So I could at least get my underwear on and maybe like half the shirt on, so I'm not totally naked when I have to turn around and talk to him. And by the way, he's like totally clothed. I don't know why. I don't know what would possess you. Like, here's someone totally naked. Let's strike up a conversation with a naked stranger. Hey man, culture. I'm not complaining. I ain't complaining. That's culture. This just doesn't happen in the U.S. in my country. It doesn't happen in my country. So I thought that was just kind of funny. He's like, hey, let's strike up a conversation with a totally naked dude, totally naked foreigner, in the onsen locker room. All right, let's move into the how-to tips. Okay, now here's the core of what I really wanted to touch on, because you might visit Japan, you might want to go to one of these places because, hey, like I said, it is probably one of the most Japanese things you can do, especially if you're from a country like America, where they just do not have this kind of culture usually. Okay, number 1, tattoos are a no-no. I know tattoos are very popular, especially in my hometown of LA, but they're a no-no because they're associated with the mafia, the Japanese Yakuza. If they're small enough, you can kind of hide them. I've seen people put like bandages or band-aids over them. But if you have like a giant dragon all over your chest, you're going to look like you just went through some massive surgery or something. And it's going to look really strange if you have like bandages. You're going to look like a mummy. So I don't know if the onsen is really going to be okay with you. Some, I don't know. They might be flexible with the rules. You might want to ask. But if you have like body tattoos really noticeable, they might not be that cool with it. They might ask you to leave. They might just not want you to be in there because of the whole Yakuza image thing. Interestingly enough, again in Tolturi, I was at the onsen and a full-on Yakuza dude came in there. I mean, he had the koi fish, he had the dragons all over his back. His whole back and arms were covered in tattoos, and the really traditional-looking, like, mafia ones. And I'm like, dude, this is a mafioso. And I'm like, man, how did he get in? I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna ask him to leave. I gotta gander at his tattoos, and that was it. I'm like, whoa, you don't see that every day in the onsen. One cool thing is I was pretty sure he didn't have a gun on him because we were both totally naked. So that was kind of cool. I got to see his tattoos, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't going to get killed. So, he just kind of sort of minded his own business. It's not like he was being loud or a douchebag or anything. So, hey, that's fine. Maybe he was retired or something, I don't know. Another tip. If you're confused, you know what's going on, just look at what other people are doing. If you can't figure out what the rules are. Okay, maybe you can't read the kanji, or something. Don't stare at people, of course, because everyone's naked, especially in the naked areas. But you can kind of get a grasp for what the rules are, if you just kind of watch people for a little bit. Don't go just blazing in there, head first. Take your time, look around a little bit, and see, where are the men going, where are the women going? Are people naked here? Are people clothed here? Okay, this is a naked area, this is a clothed area. Let's try not to be naked in the clothed areas, okay? That's probably the most important. Clothed in the naked areas, all right, I gotta get my clothes off, fine. But vice versa, naked in the clothed areas, you don't want to go there. Okay, so just look around. Of course, like I said, there's a men's area and a women's area. And usually the women's sign is like pink or red, and the men's sign is blue, usually. So you should be fine even if you can't read the kanji. Again, if you're unsure, just wait and see where people are going. I once saw like these two guys, foreigner guys, they're about to go into the women's side. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I'm like, hey, maybe you're doing it on purpose. Maybe you are. In that case, hey, you're cool. But if you're confused, I'm just trying to save you an embarrassing moment, because if you go into the women's locker room, it might be embarrassing for you, and you might get arrested or kicked out. Again, the kanji for women, it's like I don't really want to explain it. It's like, it's supposed to look like a woman. It's like I don't know how to explain it. The men's is like the kanji for a sword, and the kanji for a rice field. So it looks kind of like a grid on the top, and the bottom part is like a K, the power symbol. So if you can remember that. But again, blue and pink or red, usually that's the way it goes. So you can see where people are walking. Here's an important one, and sometimes this throws me off because each area is different. There's like a changing locker area where you strip down completely naked and you go in the bath. And in some cases, again, depending on the place, I've seen where there are actually two areas. One for changing into these like pajamas they give you. It kind of looks like a cult-like uniform to me. I don't know. It just looks like I'm joining some kind of cult. Here, put on these pajamas. You're a member of the onsen cult. And sometimes there's two separate ones. You change into the pajama areas to kind of stroll around, all the areas of the facility. It could be restaurants or lounges or whatever. And then there's a strip down area that's separate. I almost stripped down completely naked and walked out into the pajama area. But I stopped myself because I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I could see people are wearing clothes in that area. So just make a note to yourself. Sometimes there are actually two areas, and you might want to see, are people wearing pajamas, in this area or not. If there's restaurants and like lounging areas, it's probably the pajama area. So just be aware of that. Usually when you'll go in, again, they'll give you a small towel and a large towel. Sometimes you have to pay to rent the towels. You're welcome in many places to just bring your own. And you keep the large towel in the locker. That's for drying off. You don't bring it into the bath area with you. You can bring the small towel into the bath area with you. And so I enter the bath area with a small towel, and I kind of because I'm shy, I just sort of hold the towel maybe in front of the money shot, kind of like a pseudo loincloth, a loincloth of sorts. So I'll do that. And then there'll be a bunch of showers along the walls to just totally wash yourself down. And, I used to really dread this part, but I actually really like it now because you could just kind of take it easy. There's usually like these, like really traditional, like stool to sit down. It's like a sit-down shower, with a mirror in front of it. It's kind of interesting. It's not something, you might not have that at your house. And I usually put the towel on the seat, for a little extra comfort so that my bare ass isn't on like plastic or wood or whatever, where other old man's asses have been aplenty. Then oftentimes they'll give you special soaps and shampoos, and especially if you go out in the countryside areas, they'll have like the specialty of the ryokan, of the inn for sale in the gift shop, and you can try it out in the bath area. And those are really cool. There's like green tea, this and that, and organic yippity-yo. It smells really good usually. It's good stuff. So you might want to check that out. They'll give you disposable razors. You could have a shave. You can have a shave. Toothbrushes, brush your teeth. I usually take my time and actually enjoy this part. I'm sometimes excited. I want to go in the bath. But I've since matured, and I actually take my time and enjoy it because, I learned that I can only stay in the super hot water for so long before I just get tired and exhausted and I have to come out or, just kind of do the putting my legs in it or something. So I always have this vision like, oh, I'm going to be in the bath for like 2 hours, and it never happens because like after 15 minutes or something, I got to take like a break from it. So, that's the thing is just take your time with the cleaning yourself because there's plenty of time for that. You're going to get sick of the bath actually pretty quickly. You're going to have to rotate, to the different activities, if you will, in there. They'll have baths of different temperatures. They'll have like baths with different colors, some kind of mineral content in there. Some with like waterfalls and stuff going off rocks. It's really cool. Outside baths, inside baths, wood baths, rock baths. What else have I seen? Ice cold ones. So you might want to test it out before you just jump in. Might want to stick your hand in there. So there's lots of activities. Other ones, mist shower. Oh, that was awesome. It just like mists you all over the place. It's like you're in a cloud of warm goodness. Some kind of like lounge chairs with just bubbling water all around you and all sorts of different positions and stuff you could be in. These dousing showers that just gouge, is that a word, gouge? Just douche water on you. They'll just douche you. Things that just, you feel like you're in some kind of volcanic formation. Those are kind of cool. Again, other ones with like views and vistas of the surrounding scenery. And things like that. So, like I said, take your time. There's plenty of activities in there. And again, I can only tolerate the super hot baths for only like 15, 20 minutes or something. Also in the shower, after I clean up, you go in the bath, and then I usually use the small towel. I try to keep the small towel out of the water. I don't really know what the rule is on this. I just get the feeling that it's not cool because I've never seen anyone else doing it. I kind of put it on my head to kind of swab up the sweat. God, my English is terrible. And what else do I do? Just kind of put it off to the side, maybe just kind of, pad yourself off with it or something. Don't like just douse it in the water, and don't clean it off in the water. That was the whole point of just washing yourself and scrubbing yourself down, is to try to keep the actual bath itself, where a whole bunch of other people are going in, as clean as possible. They don't want like, towels with skid marks on them or something being wrung out in the actual bath. So let's see. Okay. Yeah. Again, the shower, I usually sit down. Okay. Take your time. Okay. What else? Enjoy the bath. Another good thing, the small towel, that's what I was talking about. The small towel, towel off the sweat, I put it on my head. Another good thing is I kind of use it to cover the money shot. If you're sitting outside the bath, it's too hot, you got your legs in there, I kind of just put the towel over the money shot, to kind of maintain my modesty. And a lot of people, you can see, even the Japanese, I can see they're kind of doing the pseudo loincloth thing. The pseudo loincloth thing I learned from watching other Japanese people, so it's not something like I made up. There's that. So yeah, that's the various uses of the small towel. Like I said, also there's lots of different baths. So I've even seen some with saunas, and those are awesome. And it's interesting side note is there were 2 saunas in one. One of my favorite onsens is one in Tokyo called Edo-yu. Check it out if you're ever in Tokyo, and if you want to check this place out. It's right by the Edo Tokyo Museum. right outside of Ryogoku Station off the Oedo line. If you're ever in Tokyo and want to check out a really good one, that's my recommendation. It's technically a sento, but it's really high class, very quiet. It's not like the Oedo onsen that I went to. I unfortunately took my sister and friend to. So Edo-yu, very good recommendation. Anyways, at this one, my final note I will give, at this particular sento, they had 2 saunas, and it just said sauna, and then it said Finland sauna. And I never understood what's the Finland style sauna. And it's just super hot in there. It's like way hotter. It is so hot, you're cooking. And I heard on a friend's podcast that, the Finland style sauna or something is just like 1,000 degrees or something. It's like 1,000 degrees Kelvin. It's like hotter than the surface of the sun. I was in there for maybe like less than a minute, and I just had enough. So be careful if you see the Finland style sauna in there. You'll know, of course, as soon as you open the door that it's extremely hot. But just be careful. They put warning signs all over. Unfortunately, all of them are usually just in Japanese only, telling you, hey, if you feel dizzy or whatever, you got to come out. Be careful. It's really dangerous to be in the sauna, especially too long. All right, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Japanatron. Last but not least, I will give you the contact info for the show. You can check out the website, japanatron.com. I'm also up on the Comedy Podcast Network, comedypodcastnetwork.com. Also in iTunes. If you search for Japanatron in iTunes, you will find me. And please leave a comment and give me a 5-star rating. There's not many comments. I don't know if anyone's listening to this thing. So if I get more comments and hear from you, maybe I'll actually keep this thing going. So let me know if you enjoy it, or if you have any constructive feedback, stuff that you'd like to hear about, or stuff that you don't like. So yeah, have a good day, and Happy New Year to you. Goodbye.
Welcome to Japanatron.
You have received this transmission from the Comedy Podcast Network. For more shows, visit comedypodcastnetwork.com.